Getting a bruise is the third leading result from accidents at home. They happen in an instant, and the results can last weeks. This type of tissue damage is worse for elderly people due to circulation. Hi, I'm Mary Bourne, traditional naturopath, and I love sharing natural remedies with people for better health. Natural remedies have been used for people, by people, for centuries, even thousands of years. And they've stayed with us because they work. Thank you for joining me today. When someone hits you or you bump into something hard, it can break the small blood vessels beneath your skin. That's where a bruise forms. This happens because the blood leaks out and has nowhere else to go. It stays until your body can absorb it and your skin can heal. Once you've bruised, you'll have that telltale black and blue on your skin for up to 2 weeks. The bruise should change color as it heals. So you go through this rainbow of colors until your skin is healed. You may also have some pain and swelling. It will hurt most in the first few days after the injury because of congestion. But what would you say if I said that discoloration, that pain, doesn't have to occur? The above situation depends on circulation. The poorer the circulation, the longer the healing time. That is why older people take longer to heal. We are told to use RICE: rest, ice, compression, and elevate. And from a medical standpoint, that may make sense. When you bump yourself, you have injured tissue. Blood congesting in the tissue space and coming out of the veins along with lymphatic fluids that contain certain chemicals to help your body heal. Your automatic response to a bump is to rub it. The problem is we simply don't do it long enough. Healing touch is all about physics, which may not match what medical doctors do because they don't study physics, they study medicine. Healing touch teaches us that we are energetic beings. We have positive and negative energy flowing through us, and that is what creates energy. There are all kinds of techniques and steps to becoming a master in them, like Reiki and Qigong. I think of this energy as spirit, or that part of us that connects us with God. This may be why it isn't taught in medical school, because it is about belief and the spirit. This energy healing has worked for me for years, and I know it can work for you. I feel that it was a gift God gave to all of us, all mankind. We simply have to know how to engage it. I'd like to do a little class participation. So if you put your hands together and you rub them, if you rub them briskly enough, you can feel heat. You may have done this friction technique if you're cold. You will rub your arms and create friction. And what you're doing is increasing circulation to the area. You will feel the warmth, and this heat shows you the energy I'm referring to. When you build up energy like this, you can then apply it to any part of your body that is hurting, okay? So that's the basis. Now, let me give you a little more understanding. When you rub where you bumped yourself, you are initiating this healing energy automatically. Nobody ever told you to do this. You did it upon instinct. And you always do it palm down. You don't do it like this. So this is instinctual, God-given messages that this is what we should do. So when you injure yourself, this is the inflammatory response, basically. Now this shows a piercing, but we're not talking about piercing. What we're talking about is a slam And the same response occurs where the white blood cells, hi Kathy, white blood cells will come in and start to bring with them healing responses. And so we want to initiate that. So I want you to think of you're passing by the other side of the road, there's an accident, and what happens is, people will all congest, and what you want to do is you want to get that congestion out of there so the ambulances have free flow to get to the site and help the people that are injured. So what you're doing is actually creating free flow so that this injury can be acted upon by the ambulances of our immune system. So, and now you may be thinking, okay, I'm creating heat, and that heat is causing congestion. But that is true, but what is happening when you rub it is that you're moving all this dead and dying tissue out of the way so that we can act upon that injured tissue. The dead and the dying, they're in the ambulances, they're out of here. And what we're doing is working on how we can make this injury heal faster. So most people tire too fast. They rub it for a little bit and then, or they're too busy, oh, give me a break. All you need is like 3 to 5 minutes of rubbing. How hard can that be? So what I think of is I rub until I don't feel any more pain, and then I'm done, which is at the most 5 minutes. And so then I like to apply a healing lotion. And this usually includes some kind of peppermint or camphor. And the one I've gone to recently is this Kemp Relief formula because it has this lovely peppermint in it and it engages the endocannabinoid system, which helps to balance. It helps us get back into homeostasis as quickly as we can. And there's a lot of mechanisms behind that, of which I really don't have time in this video to explain. But it is the wonderful lotion to put on an injury like a bump or a bruise that can facilitate healing quicker. Now, before I had Kemp, I used this Taifu Recovery Massage Lotion. It was marvelous. It had that camphor, it had the peppermint, and it helped to initiate that cooling, heating response that we need when we're trying to heal our bodies. So maybe you don't want to use anything with CBD because you don't quite understand how it works, and hemp has actually no THC, so it's not psychoactive. You're putting it on your skin, you're not ingesting it, and you are really downregulating the inflammatory responses. Inflammation happens like this, the signals come in, you don't need them staying there congesting things. So, and you don't want to cover up the pain indicators with pain medication. So if you act on it quickly, there is no pain. I'm telling you, I've done this hundreds of times and it works. So there's no bruising, there's no discoloration, there's no pain. I want you to try it. Try it the next time. Time yourself if you have to. Do it 3 to 5 minutes and you will be amazed. Now, there are other things that are involved in the healing process, like, people who are not eating properly won't have the nutrients. If you don't take supplements along with eating right, you're not going to have the nutrients to help you heal faster. So you want to make sure that you're doing the other things necessary for a good healing. But if you're doing this with a child, one of the wonderful things I feel that people should have in their herbal medicine chest is rescue remedy. I think I mentioned it every video because it's that important. Now, when you give, if a child injures himself, they need some calming down, and distress remedy will do that. It actually facilitates in the healing process. I'm sorry, I'm sideways. The phone doesn't let me indicate. It doesn't indicate that I've got it wrong until I'm in the middle of it. So years ago, when my children were young, I made a spray called Boo Boo Spray. And I would spray their injury. You know, a lot of times they fall, they scrape themselves. It isn't just a bruise, it's actually abraded tissue. And you want to clean it out. And this was just marvelous because it didn't hurt and it smelled good. And the ingredients that I put in it was I added purified water, about an ounce of purified water, and then I would put in a tablespoon each of silver liquid and aloe vera gel. And to this, I would add 10 to 15 drops of tea tree and maybe a little lavender, depended on what I felt like doing when I made the spray. But absolutely tea tree because it's antimicrobial and it can wash the wound. Then you can pat it dry with a paper towel, and then you want to cover it with like a gauze pad or a bandage. Now, unfortunately, when you take that bandage off, it may stick to the wound. And so what I feel is really great is putting some silver gel on that bandage so you're actually supporting antimicrobial benefit along with keeping that wound moistened. And so this is some information from the Advances in Skin and Wound Care website, and it's documented that a wound heals faster when it is moistened, not dry. So I like to do these methods to keep the wound moistened and help facilitate the healing process. Now, diabetics and people on immune suppressant medication will heal more slowly. Assisting the body's circulation will increase healing time, and natural topical antimicrobials like essential oil and silver will hasten the healing time. People who eat poor diets, like I mentioned before, they're not going to heal as well. So the products I talk about in these classes can be found on my website, bornforhealth.com. Just click on the herb encyclopedia and they are listed alphabetically. Be sure to click on the hearts. Thank you, those who have. And if you have some personal questions, you can email me, Dr. Mary at bornforhealth.com, and I'll help you. Now, healing touch methods do not take a master in Reiki to use. Everybody can use this. It is a God-given gift. So all you need to do is learn how to initiate it. And I would like to show you a picture called Kirlian photography. Now, if you look at the picture, you'll notice these hot spots, and that's the most concentration of energy. So there's some in the tips of all of the fingers, so like this, and from here. And by doing this, you're actually creating movement of that concentration of energy throughout the entire hand, and then you can place that on an injury and help it facilitate that healing response through energy. So in my next video, I want to go over burns, and I have some really personal experiences with assisting my body in healing burns that I want to introduce you to. Naturally, if there is serious burns, you would want to seek medical help. These things I teach you are not to take the replace medical help. They are simply my observations and traditional therapies over the centuries and the 40 years that I've been doing it. So I want to tell you a little story. When I was a teenager, I took a course from the Red Cross on first aid, and I was very glad I did. one of the boys I was babysitting with was in the backyard. I was sitting for a dentist, and he had 5 children, and he and his wife had gone off to dinner, and they'd left the phone number of where they'd gone for dinner, as they usually do. And David and another boy, I was watching them play in the backyard. I was doing dishes and watching them through the kitchen window, and I put something aside, and the next thing I know, here's David bleeding from his head. I mean, the blood is just flowing out of his head. Well, apparently the other little boy had seen a hammer that was left out of a toolbox. These things happen. That's why I'm teaching these videos. So he was curious. It wasn't done out of maliciousness. He simply, wonder what this is, and of course David's head was right there. And so he was crying and standing there, like, what did I do? What did I do? And so now this family of 4, the oldest one is 12, and so I said to the 12-year-old, run next door and tell the parent that they should come and get this child, and that come right back. And so he did that, and I immediately grabbed David and went into the bathroom that was like they call it a mud room back then. I don't know what they call it now. And I took a clean cloth and I soaked it in cold water, wrung it out, and stuck it on David's head and had him sit on the floor while I went and grabbed a plastic bag with ice in it. And by this time, the older boy had come back, and I said to him, I want you to take this number, call your mom and dad, tell them that David is okay, but he needs medical attention, and that I'm attending to him, but they should get here as soon as possible. Well, parents arrived in about 10 minutes, and I'm sitting there rocking David with ice water on his head and trying to soothe him as much as I could. And well, they grabbed him and they rushed him off to the doctor's office, and later they said David was being kept for observation for concussion, and the parents came back and they were so pleased that the doctor said that thanks to my quick thinking that David's blood loss was minimal, and that they really thought that he would be fine due to my quick action. So I'm very grateful. I think that everybody should be aware of what to do in the case of emergency. And now with this virus thing, we're being told to stay away from hospitals as much as possible so that they can concentrate on working with the COVID-19. And really, these things, minor things, can be taken care of. Now, it's important to know when you have reached your capacity, so to speak, of knowledge, but it also is important for you to act quickly, because the quicker you respond to something like this, the faster the healing process can take over. So the reason for these videos is to focus on first aid and to help you feel more in control. And I have a little handout, and if you're interested in some suggestions on what to keep in a herbal first aid kit, you can send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, and my address is on the website. So, people need to learn some things. Now, my husband went all the way through Boy Scouts, and he learned a ton of things to do. I think people are not too young to learn. A 5-year-old can learn how to erase a bump or a bruise. You just need to implement these. So take some classes on first aid and keep watching these videos for how with herbs you can ramp up what you learn. Now, if I had known about yarrow, and if they had had yarrow on hand, even a yarrow salve, I would have been able to stop that bleeding much quicker, because yarrow is an astringent and it pulls the tissues together. So you can share what you've learned, Recommend these videos to your friends so that other people can find some solutions that don't harm you and don't harm the environment. And remember to watch next time when I discuss what to do for burns. Keep focusing on gratitude. Be thankful for the people and gifts of nature all around you, the flowers, and all the joy that is here in this world. Thank you for viewing. Until next time, this is Dr. Mary for the Health of It.